Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar presentation, Gain a Competitive Edge with Graph Analytics, brought to you by TigerGraph. I would like to introduce you to our presenters. First, Raiz Pasha. Raiz is responsible for core areas of TigerGraph's database server. His expertise is in the areas of data management and big data analytics. He has held product management roles, delivering enterprise software in both traditional and SaaS environments. Prior to moving to product management, he worked at Hewlett-Packard as a software designer working on different aspects of database management systems, including Query Optimizer and Catalog Manager. He received his BS in computer science from Osmania University in India and an MS in computer science from the University of Memphis. And now I'd like to introduce our second presenter today, Emma Liu. Emma has a mission to empower developers, data scientists, and enterprise data analysts with easier access to graph analytics and features. She is a senior product manager at TigerGraph, leading efforts in cloud application features, containerization, and DBA management portal. Emma has a background in data management, cloud computing, and complex system designs. Prior to TigerGraph, she worked at Oracle and MarkLogic. Emma holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Harvey Mudd College and a Master's of Science degree from MIT. And with that, I would like to pass it off to Raiz and Emma.
Thanks, Drew, for the introductions. Hello, everyone. On the agenda, I'd like to start by going over today's agenda first. But before that, I first want to thank attendees for your interest in learning about how TigerGraph can help with your graph analytics journey. So on the agenda today, we'll start off with the first important question of why graph and why now? To understand the reasons behind the rapid adoption of graph in recent times. And next, we'll look at a quick overview of TigerGraph company and also our flagship product, a database product that's behind that powers our graph analytics. And then my colleague Emma Liu will walk through graph analytics starter kits that we have built based on common industry use cases. These starter kits actually allow you to quickly gain insights from graph analytics. And next, after that, we'll present TigerGraph 3.0 overview. That's our latest major release for the year 2020. Finally, we'll wrap it up with some Q&A in the end. So the first question that that we need to answer is why graph and why now? Because if you look at it, for the importance of graph in today's data analytics industry, it's clear, at least among the industry observers, there is a general consensus about the compelling value that graph analytics deliver. It gives businesses with a competitive edge, both in terms of saving costs as well as driving new revenue opportunities. And graph has been consistently listed as a top 10 technology trend in the past few years. You can see Gartner and other industry research firms have been in the forefront for that. Before we go into how graph can deliver that competitive edge to businesses, it's important to look into what the current needs of businesses are and how graph analytics can address those needs of especially the ones that are data-driven organizations. So graph technologies as a whole have a rich history, starting off with the graph theory playing a key role in academic research circles. And also even graph databases have been around for a decade. But there is a clear change that's been happening in the recent times in terms of use of graph to solve business problems. So the question again is key, why and why now? The answer is businesses are no longer happy with asking basic business reporting questions. They actually want to get more complex business questions answered through their data. Basically, they require data analysis to explore hidden connections among data to answer those complex questions, which with previous data management technologies were not possible. And the reason for that is because there's two critical challenges when we ask complex questions of the data. One, You should have the ability to blend data from multiple sources. The data may be in different business units. Maybe some data is internal as well as external. So your data management platform has to support that level of functionality. And it's not just the fact that data is dispersed in multiple sources, but it's also the type of data that's being stored now. There's a lot of variability in terms of data set itself. So, and then there is interconnection between the data. So to explore and to do all that, you need a data model that can represent it very well. And that's where data graph is comes into play. Graph is ideally suited for these kind of requirements, and that has been the reason why there's been a rapid adoption in terms of graph in the recent times. So if you look at in terms of industry research firms, they've been, as I said, very forefront at predicting this trend, and they've been tracking graph for a while. And you can see in the recent years, graph has been in the top technology trends in the annual reports that leading research firms like Gartner release. And in fact, it's been for the third or fourth year running, graph has been in the top five in terms of the top technology trends. And if you look at the quote here from Gartner, graph analysis is possibly the single most effective competitive differentiator for organizations pursuing data-driven operation. So it cannot be any more clear as to how Gartner sees graph as a vital cog in your data management infrastructure. And this is clearly reflected in the level of adoption in across different verticals, industries. So in short, um, Graph is no longer just a special data management tool, but it's an essential part of the data management infrastructure that companies have come to expect. So building on the same path of more validation in terms of where Graph stands now, another research from IDC, they provided some additional context in terms of and proof points to underscore the importance of Graph. If you look at the code, new and valuable insights from finding links between well-understood integrated data. So this seems like the key business requirement now, that it is no longer enough to know what happened in the past, but finding new insights and finding links between data that is that may not be easily apparent. That seems to be the new requirement, requirement for businesses. And if you look at the recent findings of our IDC report, again, that again specifies that the relationships between entities to find patterns is the only way to extract maximum value from your data. And then if you look at the polls they've conducted, half of the 44%, half of the star performing analytics adopters are analyzing graph or analyzing link data. So it is for them not sufficient to just look at legacy data management tools, but to actually, depending on the type of data, use different types of tools. And then going further down, 31%, that's like one third of the users are using graph database technology. So basically the point that I'm trying to make is graph is no longer this exotic thing, but it is becoming more and more mainstream, and it becoming almost a necessary tool for every business that wants to get maximum value out of their data. All right, so to further look into why the research firms are so bullish about graph, we need to understand what is it that's making them come to the conclusion that graph is so important. We need to step back and look at the big picture of the analytics space itself. So you can see from in the analytics, there are two separate buckets at a high level. You have one side business intelligence, and then the other bucket is more advanced analytics. While the former business analytics dealt with legacy business reporting requirements, which is still required. Was more to inform businesses what happened previously. While the latter, advanced analytics, which is where a lot of the innovation is happening now, it's an emerging field, and that's where business are looking to get help with answers to questions about the future, about the path forward. So these advanced analytics typically deal with predictive, prescriptive analytics, and about modeling, about simulating scenarios using ML and AI to understand and how to be better prepared to answer business questions. So all of these advanced analytics practice areas are geared towards providing businesses that competitive edge that everyone's looking for. Um, and again, as you see, as the connectedness and the complexity of the data, of the underlying data sets that companies have, increases, the clear choice is that the native data model of the graph, is the right answer because it depicts the rich connections between the data very easily. Now, this is not a knock on other types of data management systems, like you have RDBMS, you have key value stores, your document stores. They all have a purpose. They were built for something else. But if you try to use them to in the case of advanced analytics, you would be at a disadvantage because obviously there are performance issues, there are operational issues. All of these, place them at a disadvantage. So graph is the only one that really helps you, in terms of getting maximum value out of your connected data. So now let's look deeper into why GraphDB is a better match, and why not RDBMS? Because RDBMS is the most prevalent databases, and almost majority of the when users are asked about databases, RDBMS comes in as the logical choice. But if you look at it, look at the definition of graph analytics. Graph analytics is a set of analytic techniques that allows for exploration of relationships between data. So in this case, any use case that requires in-depth analysis of relationship would require you to join data across multiple entities. And the thing that's a problematic for RDBMS is if as the number of joins increase, the performance and scale becomes a really big problem. And this is where this is a natural fit for graph, and that's where the strength of graph database comes in. So according to Gartner, in terms of their forecasted growth, application of graph processing and graph DBMS would grow 100% annually year over year, up to 2022. So that means there is a large demand for growth for graph in terms of enabling complex use cases, adaptive data science use cases. So to address these kind of complex questions, which it wouldn't be practical for existing customers to use their existing RDBMS solutions, and they should. And the reason for that is obvious, right? Because at scale, the SQL queries won't be able to support these complex use cases. So graph stores, data stores which efficiently model data, and depict the complex interrelationships across data silos can really help. But the problem, again, the question is these need for specialized skills are not there yet. So the key question is, will the GraphDB's vendors step up and make that, answer that call, so that graph databases can address the need in the next 4 to 5 years when graph analytics is bound to grow at the rate that Gartner is predicting. So we believe yes, the answer is yes, TigerGraph is that solution. We believe TigerGraph is well positioned to further broaden the adoption of graph. So I want to present a quick overview of the TigerGraph company and our product. TigerGraph was founded in 2012 with the objective of helping customers build advanced analytics. Basically, TigerGraph database is the foundation on which we believe you can build your data science application, ML, AI, or any advanced analytics applications. Our flagship product, the TigerGraph database, is built on an MPP architecture, which means it's the only scalable database. Everything runs in parallel. So in terms of scale, as your business needs grow, as the size of the data grows, we are future proof in the sense of the architecture. And also the TigerGraph database is designed for both OLAP and OLTP workloads in the same database. And we also have SQL-like querying interface, so that if you're transitioning off from RDBMS, if you have the background in SQL, it's a natural transition for you to use TigerGraph And the proof is there. Our customers include largest of companies in financial, healthcare, telecom, and all of the key verticals. And not just the large companies, but some of the most innovative startups in cybersecurity, e-commerce. All of these are part of our customer base at this point. Just a quick look at some of the awards we have won. We take a lot of pride in being the most innovative company and solving some of the most intractable data problems, and we've been rewarded continually based on our innovation. So let's dig deeper into how TigerGraph helps with that mission. So again, to restate our mission, TigerGraph mission is help our customers improve the world with deeper insights. And it's a bold mission, and I think we are working towards fulfilling that mission. And if you look at our customers, we are helping improve fraud detection at 4 of the top 5 banks in the world, and we are able to deliver recommendations in the healthcare industry with the top vendor up to 50 million patients. And some of the infrastructure companies use us to reduce power outages for over a million people, 1 billion people. So there's on and on. There's so many other data points in terms of the impact that we are able to help our customers deliver the benefit to our this thing. So how are we doing that? Like, what is it that uniquely qualifies us to provide this kind of uh, you know uh, value to our customers? Well, first is TigerGraph is different from other graph database vendors by addressing the three key aspects of connected data analytics use cases. One, the three aspects are depth and width and operational nature of the data. First, start with the deep side. TigerGraph can traverse 6 to 10 plus hop queries easily, while some other graph database vendors can go 2 or 3 at most, and then after that, they cannot scale. So even if your data is really deep in terms of traversal and connectedness, we are still able to perform at a high level. The second is width aspect, like basically how wide your data set is spread across, both external, internal, how easy is it to blend data sources. We have the ability to easily load data from various data sources and ability to do quick analysis on the fly. And operationally, with other vendors, typically they are either on the OLAP side or on the OLTP side, which means if you have any use cases that require updates to the data, they would not be a good fit. With that, with TigerGraph, there is no such distinction. You can do even our operational use cases equally well with TigerGraph. Both OLAP and OLTP can run in the same database. And obviously, how we give customers a choice of deployment. TigerGraph is offered both as an on-prem enterprise database as well as offered on the public cloud on the leading providers. So I want to go a bit deeper into the architecture of our database product. So I'll start. Um, this obviously is not an in-depth or overview, but it would be a quick touch on features that help us position ourselves as the leading graph database product in the market. Starting with the scalability at the bottom left. Like I said, TigerGraph is built on MPP architecture. Similar to other MPP architecture databases, everything is designed to be fault tolerant, HA, and to run in parallel. That way, the scale and performance are never a concern. The more hardware you add, linearly the performance would go. So from the ground up, it's not a bolt-on, but it's a native implementation from all the way from the platform to allow you to scale that way. The second aspect again is transactional aspect to it, because if you look at analytics use cases, if you are from the BI world, there's no updates. It's all about reporting on what happened. But the new world of analytics is requires you to change data, basically update data, because they are powering business process. It's not just reporting. So with TigerGraph, you have the ability to transactionally change data, and we guarantee asset properties for all the changes that go in. The next is the performance, the real-time performance, because A lot of the analytics are time sensitive. What sort of response time do you have for your queries decides on what action you take, because you may have a great use case and you are able to provide some outcome, but if it doesn't deliver in time, for example, a recommendation engine, if you do not provide recommendation in the subsequent requirement, then obviously it will not be of value to the customer. Moving over to the right side again, in terms of query traversal, because graph is connected, and the number of entities that a graph can capture can go into millions. So when you traverse the data, when you write queries, the more complex queries, the more hops it would have to traverse through graph. And in our case, we have very complex use cases where 10 plus hop queries perform easily on our system. And that's something that where we have benchmarked against other vendors. And clearly, in terms of performance, in terms of ability to scale, we feel very comfortable going against any of the other database vendors. And then before I go to the ease of development and deployment, I want to touch quickly on the security aspect. For us, security is paramount. The kind of use cases that the companies that run TigerGraph, like healthcare, finance, they have very high enterprise requirements on terms of both storing data encrypted at rest as well as in transit. So we have built that into our platform from the get-go, so that your data is secure, both where it is stored and how it is handled when you run queries. And also the control to access includes all the best industry standards. We have implemented a feature called multi-graph that allows you to isolate parts of graph access to individuals based on their credentials, their data needs. So you kind of get much more granular access to parts of graph, similar to how databases provide that security for schema level, table level, column level security. And last, I want to touch on the ease of development, because if you are coming in new to Graph, it is a new data model, it is a new set of tooling that developers are not familiar. So to help that, we have built a lot of the tooling to make it easier. To start off, we have Graph Studio, which is our visual SDK that allows you to quickly explore data visually through the visual medium without writing a single line of code. So that makes it easy for non-technical users to get quickly started and get familiar with the TigerGraph product. And then we have GSQL, which is our querying language. It is a Turing complete language, which means it is very rich in expressibility. You could just like SQL, a lot of the syntax is similarly modeled after SQL. So if you have familiarity with SQL, GSQL would be a natural extension of that, and you can get started quickly. And also we feature a rich library of graph algorithms that provide you out of the box a lot of for data scientists especially. It's a great toolkit to get started on their use cases. And the next thing is I want to touch on is how are our customers using TigerGraph. As you can see, a lot of the use cases are about um, basically uncovering hidden connections or about recommending next best action in terms of like some of the retail vendors are using that. And obviously some of the key use cases are also about finding abnormality or fraud situations in financial industry and healthcare. And also one of the another key thing is in terms of the AI ML use cases, how do we find clusters of connected entities? Because a lot of the model development and training data sets requires you to prepare the data ahead of time, and Graph can help with that. So my colleague Emalu will go into the starter kit. That will be a natural logical next part in the presentation, where she will touch upon these use cases and how we are enabling that with starter kits basically. So I'm going to transition over to Emma for the starter kit description.
Thank you, Reyes.
All right, let me just do that. Emma, do you have control now?
Yep. Can you
Okay,
see?
cool. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, thank you, Rias, for the overall introduction for TigerGraph architecture and also the use cases. It's actually super exciting for me to see like many of our customers are using TigerGraph in all different verticals. And now I'm going to introduce the first part of how we're making it easy for our users to leverage the graph analytics. The first one is to make for the new users and customers to leverage the full benefits of the TigerGraph. We incorporate two important features for our SaaS offering, the TigerGraph Cloud Platform. And it is not only a fully managed database as a service, which provides the latest TigerGraph database additions, but also package many example graph use cases into graph starter kits. So the graph starter kit includes a TigerGraph database and also example graph schemas. So you can actually use our free tier on the TigerGraph Cloud to learn about the graph use cases and also do POC to analyze all these use cases and modify to your own use. So to start with, last September, we actually initially launched TigerGraph Cloud. We already had 10 plus starter kits to capture the use cases in different industry, including some of the very popular ones, for example, Customer 360, entity resolution, and also money and fraud and money laundering in financial services. So these are some of the top use cases we see. And the first half of this year, we also added a few of the new use cases in the TigerGraph Cloud environment. And it includes the cybersecurity threat detection and also the data lineage and also financial payment and machine learning use cases. For recommendation engine, we also reached 2.0 version for the hyper personalized marketing. I want to go over some of the latest starter kits that we added this year. The first one that we see a trend that some of our prospects and customers are using TigerGraph to work on the cybersecurity threat detection example. And this is a more advanced starter kits compared to an earlier network and IT resource optimization use case, which governs the internal IT and network components. And this one is really designed to identify the different components on the internet and block the cybersecurity threats by detecting these connected events, entities, and people. And it helps block devices using denial and service attacks and also prevent the attacks with accuracy. And the next part is a starter kit with demonstrated data lineage example. And we've seen that there's an increasing trend regarding data privacy and governance in enterprises. And TigerGraph is designed to manage data better with the relationship between different data silos and also tracking and trace the data sources. The goal is to have better quality data and also achieve operational efficiency with data governance and compliance. And for the financial service payments, there is a starter kit that helps you to look at the fraud detection in the different payments in real time. Many of our financial customers leverage TigerGraph to identify fraud in their system. And it definitely, the real-time aspect really minimizes loss to our customers. And this starter kit focuses on extracting the graph features in real time and in a mobile network. It is a simple data set which represents an example graph extraction for China Mobile, which is one of our customers. In the real production use case, the machine learning model used also leverages 118 features we provided to the phone call data set. In this starter kit, we only included a very simple graph schema and one one simple graph feature extraction query. So imagine that you're a mobile phone user. When your phone rings, you're given a reminder on your screen about whether this phone call is a fraud or scam phone call. So the benefits is for our customers are multiple, including blocking the phone-based fraud in real time on a large data set. So TigerGraph not only serves for graph extraction, but also feeding features into the model, and also represent the real-time scoring with the trained machine learning model. So we were able to save millions of dollars for a single province in a year, according to the police department estimation. This starter kit, which is what I mentioned, recommendation engine 2.0, with the hyper-personalized marketing use case, it definitely goes into more of the details about personal preferences so that some of our customers are able to leverage those features and to increase the profits with cross-selling, upselling with different product features and demo features. So take a look at this example, and you can modify to your own use for your hyper-personalized marketing recommendation engine. So in April, we're going to include a few more, actually 7 more starter kits in the TigerGraph Cloud platform. And this week, we just added the COVID-19 starter kit. I'm going to go into a little bit detail later, but in addition to the COVID-19 starter kit, we're adding 2 in-database machine learning starter kits, and we're adding 4 more graph algorithm focused starter kits. So we're adding these graph starter kits very frequently, almost averaging 3 new starter kits every month since the start of a TigerGraph Cloud. And all these starter kits, the COVID-19 starter kit is actually packaged with South Korean dataset with the pre-packaged graph schema and dataset, and also example queries. And we really want to bring the graph analytics closer to all our users by providing the infrastructure use case and also the example dataset right at your fingertip on our platform. Now let me dig a little bit deeper into the very new and fresh COVID-19 starter kit. You can access the COVID-19 starter kit for free by signing up at TigerGraph Cloud, which is tgcloud.io. So we're super excited that this is already available on our platform, and our developer community are also making more dashboards to show the graph analytics with many interested developers and data scientists around the world. So to make things easier, we already released this on TigerGraph Cloud platform, and so that everyone around the world can collaborate to fight the disease prevention. So again, this data set does not only contain, this starter kit does not only contain the data set, but also the graph schema and quite a few example queries. Of course, you can modify and add more queries you would like to investigate the South Korean data set. So graph database is probably the easiest way to organize the COVID-19 infection data and tracking and monitoring the spread of the disease. So all the data set for patients and their geo and time data are a natural fit for putting on a network and a graph. And also, in addition to that, graph algorithms such as community detection and deep link analysis can really quickly help identify hubs of infection and also super spreaders. So with these patient, path, and geolocation temporal data, you can really trace people who are spreading the virus and identify people who are close to the super spreaders and alerting them, and also building sophisticated model to predict the medical resource demand, and also facilitate the allocation, such as ICU beds and ventilators. So the screenshot here demonstrates the graph exploration for the South Korean dataset in TigerGraph's Graph Studio. So we're including quite a few example queries, such as the most infections, so finds the person who infected the largest number of people, and infected by query, it identifies all the people infected by the same person, and also geo contact tracing in the starter kit. It tracks the potential infection path using the geolocation data in the data set. So this data set is from South Korean Center for Disease and Control. It is a subset of the whole disease infection data. And they were organizing relational tables, the CSV format. And then we loaded and mapped them into a graph schema into TigerGraph. So one interesting example, using TigerGraph, you can really help find the lung infection path using the deep link analysis. This features a multi-hop analysis, and TigerGraph can handle, as Reyes mentioned earlier, can handle more than 10 hop relationship very efficiently and performantly. So with a relational database, it may take a while to really query using multiple joins to get this type of pathfinding statistics. All right, let me show you the use case from TigerGraph Cloud Platform. So this is our platform, tigergraph.tgcloud.io. And when you enter this, you'll get into our login page. Let me use my test account. So this is where log into the system, and this is the portal that we have for TigerGraph Cloud. And you can see there's the solution usage, total solution, your billing and balance, monthly cost, latest activities. And this is, let me just get to the place that you can start provision my solutions. You can click on my solutions. I already started one starter kits there, but let me start a new one just to demonstrate the workflow, how you can start the TigerGraph starter kits with the database and example queries underneath. You click on create solutions, and on this page, you get to choose among all the starter kits that's available on the platform. And now let me choose the COVID-19 analysis and go to the next step. And here you can choose the platform. And currently we're supporting AWS platform. And later in the year, we're going to support Azure and Google Cloud underneath the TigerGraph Cloud platform. And I already provisioned one free tier. Let me just use another instance here and use a Northern California region. We have 6 regions so far, but you can also request to add more regions. I would choose just a default 100 gig this size. You can also enter another value here for your disk size. Just keep at 100 gigabytes. Here for the partition factor or application factor, this introduces the concept of TigerGraph distributed cluster. For now, I'm going to use the single server version for this demo. Let me go to next. And here you can name your solution, COVID. And this is the tag for your solution. You can set the initial password. And remember this password because you need this to enter the Graph Studio SDK. Now let me just give another domain name, COVID-19 demo test, COVID-19. Next. All right, here is the summary that you can look at, and if you want to modify any of these parameters, you can go back to the previous step. Let me just submit this. Now in the background, the platform is going to create this new solution, and normally it takes about 3 to 5 minutes for a single server TigerGraph solution because of the AWS machine provisioning time. So I already provisioned a COVID-19 kit already before the webinar. Let me just open solution here. Voila, you can see our Graph Studio, which is our developer SDK for the specific solution and starter kits. And as I mentioned, we packaged the graph schema already in these graph starter kits. And as you can see, for COVID-19, we designed these schema with infection case, patient, time, vertex, and city, and also all the edges in between these different vertex. So we reorganized the relational schema into a graph schema here. And in the platform, you can also go through mapping the data to graph. It's already mapped here. And then you can load the data in this step. So here, I already loaded data before the demo. And you can explore the graph, and you can pick random 5 of all, and then also expand into more of the different vertex here. So this is an exploration tab. And the last one is writing queries. As I mentioned, we already wrote queries and prepackaged them in the starter kits. Here, I want to just show 2 queries here. This is the edge crawl query, which will show some of the cluster in the South Korean data set. Let me run the query here. And yes, and you can see that there are some cluster forming here. And if you look at some of the data close, you can see that some of these data sets has, for example, a location and cluster. This is the Donggan Church that infected multiple people around this church event, a mass event. And you can actually trace to this person and how this person is getting to travel to another place at the same time, and then how this location and time event also trace to another patient. And you can definitely go through this chain to find out what is the path for this infection. Let me just go back and try to see this another infection subgraph. So this subgraph is when you enter a patient ID, you can actually look at how all the infections are related to the single patient. Let me just take this example patient ID here and run the query. Voila, you can see that for the highlighted symbol here is the patient that we're investigating. And when you enter this patient ID, you're able to see who are actually, who are the other patients that are affected by the same patient, and what are the travel events that actually caused the infection. So it's very interesting. You can definitely input a lot more other patient data, and you can see how one person is affecting a group of people in different time and different location. All right, so this is a COVID-19 starter kit demo. Let me just go back to the portal, and you can see that the one that I was just provisioned are ready. Okay, Let me go back to the slide. I'm going to hand it over to Reyes here to talk about the 3.0 overview. And this is another approach, a more advanced approach in the database layer that we're introducing to make it easy, make graph analytics easy for everyone. Reyes?
Thanks, Emma. Can you switch to the next slide, please? Yeah, hi. So 3.0 is our latest release from TigerGraph database side. It's a major release for us. Is the biggest release for the year 2020. And a lot of work has gone into this release. So I just wanted to capture the highlights in one slide. We're gonna touch upon three features in this update. So first is couple of features we're adding are to make it easier for non-technical users to or users who are new to graph to quickly start getting value out of graph databases. One is no code migration from relational database. As you can imagine, most of our users come from relational background, and their data is residing in RDBMS data stores. So the quick question is, how do I move the data into a graph store so I can start exploring? And typically, this requires you to work with some ETL engineers to write the jobs to convert them from the relational extract and then load it into graph database, and can prove to be a pretty daunting task, especially if you're trying to do a quick analysis. So we've tried to put together this tool that automates this whole process by basically extracting the data, creating schema on the fly, and then loading the data. It's a quick iteration for exploration. This can get you started quickly with the data loading part. Now, once you have the data loaded, how do you actually interface with the data and get insights? That's what is addressed by the second feature, which is called Visual Query Builder. Again, the target audience is non-technical users, business analysts, folks who don't want to run GSQL queries because they have to learn a new querying language. Here, they can simply run the queries by drawing patterns, by drag and drop. They can look at the visual medium is powerful, and it's very natural for graph to depict everything visually. So we've taken that approach with Visual Query Builder to show you what the schema looks like, what objects, how are they related. And if you want to write a query, you just specify between the vertices and edges what sort of connections you want to see, like what sort of filtering criteria, what sort of aggregates you want to build. All of that is done through drag and drop functionality. Behind the scenes, we create the GSQL query to run that. So these two features are primarily about lowering the threshold for non-technical users to get started with graph database quickly. Now, we have a whole bunch of other features. Obviously, I won't be able to do justice to go through all of them. But on the engine side, I want to highlight one key feature, which is user-defined indexing. This is a big feature going out because, as you can imagine, when you do the schema design for graph, you kind of lean on certain attributes to be your primary key attributes because those are the ones on which your querying is mostly done. But as your use cases change, as data changes, some other attributes may become much more important. But since the design is already done, to get performance for those non-primary key attributes, you will need some sort of secondary indexing, which is what second relational databases offer. So similar way for a graph, we are offering user-defined indexing that does the same, where you get the same performance of a primary key attribute with a non-primary key attribute. And the semantics that we have kept are similar to how relational database implement secondary indexes, which is the developers don't have to add anything on the query side itself. Our optimizer will look at the query, and based on the predicate selectivity or where the predicates are, it'll pick the indexes automatically. And one more thing I wanted to close out on the 3.0 is the changes to the platform layer. A lot of these are not visible to the user, but they're highly impactful. We have implemented improvements at the platform layer to make sure all of the operations in terms of cluster operations, in terms of deployment, installation, HA, all of there's improvements across the board on the platform too. The whole point is to make this platform scalable and future-proof. That way, if your data grows from terabytes to even petabytes, we're able to handle it seamlessly, and that's our goal. And a couple more features I wanted to touch on is on the engine side. We are providing schema flexible querying that's similar to your dynamic SQL on the relational world if you're coming from the relational side. Basically, that allows you to parameterize queries at runtime. This will be very useful for developers to write reusable clean code. And then Graph Studio that Emma just presented, we are adding some more features like support for interpreted mode querying, which is like running query immediately without actually compiling and installing it. And on the system management side, we have data export import utility that's going out, which allows you to move selectively data schema or the entire database instance from one environment to other. This will be very useful for customers who want to mimic certain production issues in a developer environment or vice versa. And then, of course, our 3.0 features new installer, as I mentioned, which is 10 times faster. And then there are some UI enhancements also. A lot of the system management function was developed on the command line interface first, but we're making it easy so that everything is consumer grade and all of the even backend operation stuff is done through a single pane of glass. And so user and license key management are some of the features that we are porting over to the UI side. And like I said, there's many more. I won't be able to do justice with the time we have, so I just listed a few here. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, Emma, you want to talk a little bit about the no-code migration tool?
Of course. Yeah, so we want to highlight two of the features that Riaz mentioned earlier for this 3.0 release. The first one is the no-code migration, and it's very simple, a few clicks that you can choose the relational data store and select the table and attributes and migrate that into a relational schema and also loading the data. And of course, you can customize and optimize for the graph schema and data mapping in Graph Studio. And this is really, simplifies the ETL process for someone who's more familiar with relational and getting to learn a graph data modeling. I'm going to just show a quick recorded demo on our no-code announcement page. So you can go to the tigergraph.com/no-code. And here there is a quick demo that I want to show. And you can see that how the no-code data migration from relational database to TigerGraph is working. Let me just speed up a little bit because we are running out of time. Okay. So this is really no-code to extract the data and no-code to create a schema and also a no-code to import the data into TigerGraph. And this is a very traditional Northwind relational schema. And you can use our tool to input the connection data and credentials and choosing all the table attributes and getting to graph schema. You can create an index in our TigerGraph engine with the indexing RDBMS. And it takes a little bit of time to publish the data mapping. And now you can verify the data schema here. And of course, if you're happy with the schema, go with the already auto-generated. If you want to modify it, you can also do it here and also modify the data mapping and load the data into TigerGraph platform. All right, I'm going to stop here. You can definitely watch the whole video again on the no code. Let me just go back to our presentation. And the second feature is the Visual Query Builder part, which is an intuitive approach to graph analytics. you don't need to write the GSQL query anymore. You can just drag and drop. And this really helps, for example, data scientists and business analysts to look at the graph analytics with no coding. So it's very fast, and because you can just drag and drop and share these graph patterns with your teammates and decrease the learning curve. Let me just show you where this demo video is. Again, if you go to our 3.0 announcement page, we also have a demo video here. And you can see, okay, so this is the no-code Visual Query Builder with to show the graph analytics. And let me fast forward that how you can build a graph pattern here. So this is the graph schema that you work with in this example data set. And you can build the graph patterns here and actually putting, for example, if you want to find a CEO who worked for a big data company, you can add a new pattern here and then construct the graph patterns to show, okay, who is the CEO of the big data companies in Redwood City? The very cool feature I want to point out here is, okay, when you have the question in your mind, you first think about what are the entities in this query, and then you can construct and pick from the graph schema and also merge the different vertex. For example, here we're tracing the city, the industry, both the vertex and edge, and then you can merge the company into one pattern here. Just going to fast forward here to, yeah, so now you can actually do the filtering, putting, okay, city is Redwood City here. And now you can put the result person here. And Jenny turns out to be the only CEO of a company that's in big data industry. All right, let me just exit this demo video. Again, like if you want to see the whole video, come to this site and you'll get all the 3.0 features here as well. Reach out to us if you have questions. I just want to end the whole presentation with a quote from our distinguished engineer in one of our customer, who is in a Fortune 10 healthcare company. And we're super excited to hear that we are able to really be motivated by this type of world impact that we're making. And we're really encouraged and move forward with the product innovation at TigerGraph and really bring graph analytics to everyone. And this is through a more accessible way in cloud platform and also in 3.0 with the no-code data migration and graph pattern analysis. And TigerGraph really like simplifies your IT process and also making the data migration and query writing and development and this whole process into a streamlined fashion. So we're very happy that there's a complete end-to-end simple workflow to help more data scientists and developers and business analysts to work on impactful use cases such as fighting COVID-19. With that, there are more resources here, and you can sign up at tgcloud.io and also go to the /nocode.
I would like to thank both Reyes and Emma for a great presentation. I would also like to thank TigerGraph for providing the audience with a great webinar. Lastly, thank you to everyone who attended today. We hope you learned something new that will help you in your developer career, and we hope that you're staying safe out there. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.